A charismatic leader, one who has risen above all others, speaks to the multitudes. They have waited for him. They believe in him. They expect he will heal the world's ills. Some say he is the Messiah, finally returned. But this man is not a savior. He is the King of Terror, who will usher in the end of everything. For thousands of years, prophets around the world have predicted the end of days. More than one suggests the apocalypse is fast approaching. We call this theoretical convergence between doomsday prophecies and today's events the Nostradamus effect.
How will the end begin?
One of the earliest of the biblical Antichrist prophecies comes from the New Testament, in the book of Revelation. It describes the Antichrist's arrival in the world.
Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
How is this ancient prophecy entwined with other later prophecies about the Antichrist? Prophecies that may be an example of the Nostradamus effect. For some, the key may lie with Nostradamus himself.
Nostradamus was a messenger of the divine plan. He would have been interested in the Antichrist because he would want the human race to know what they were facing in the future, specifically toward the end times.
Nostradamus began publishing all of his prophecies, including his visions of the Antichrist, in the mid-16th century. His prophecies consist of 10 books called centuries, each consisting of 4-lined poems called quatrains. It was within these writings that Nostradamus revealed visions of the Antichrist, and to describe them in his writings.
One who the infernal gods of Hannibal will cause to be reborn, terror to all mankind.
Nostradamus wrote of 2 antichrists that have since come and gone, leaving unparalleled destruction and bloodshed in their wake. Many insist that the final part of this prophecy has yet to come true. They suggest that the third false prophet may be destined to wreak havoc in our own time, and that he may be among us right now. Some believe that the key to unlocking the mystery of the third Antichrist may be found in the identities of the first 2, and that clues revealing who they are could be found in Nostradamus's quatrains.
An emperor will be born near Italy. He will cost his empire very dearly.
In this quatrain, it is suggested that Nostradamus prophesied the first Antichrist. Nostradamus predicts this destructive leader will come from southern Europe to plague his own people. The second Antichrist is even worse. Nostradamus writes that he too is European and possesses unprecedented powers of persuasion.
From the very depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop.
Many believe that if Nostradamus successfully predicted the appearance of Napoleon and Hitler, his prophecy of the third Antichrist is also likely to come true. Is this exaggerated doctrine or credible evidence? What are the exact links between these 3 alleged false prophets? A closer examination of Nostradamus's Antichrist quatrains may allow us to reveal the truth. Nearly 500 years ago, history's famed prophet Nostradamus predicted the arrival of 3 antichrists, each building on the power of the last. Some believe the third and most dangerous Antichrist may be among us now. Napoleon Bonaparte, one of history's most notorious tyrants. Is this quatrain proof that the Emperor of France was the first Antichrist prophesied? Did Nostradamus see Napoleon's arrival on the world stage 233 years before he came to power?
An emperor will be born near Italy. He will cost his empire very dearly.
Born in Corsica, about 30 miles from Italy, Napoleon proclaimed himself Emperor of France in 1799. He presented himself as a champion and savior of his people.
Historians see Napoleon as a hero, a savior of France, during a time that France was economically suppressed, during a time when France needed a savior. He came as a false messiah, one who dominated the entire population and even crowned himself.
According to Nostradamus, the ability to appear as a savior and seduce entire populations is characteristic of the Antichrist. Responsible one way or another for 3.5 million deaths, likely more than any other single human being before him, many conclude that Napoleon does fit the description of the first Antichrist. That Napoleon's trail of misery and destruction marks him as one of history's monsters, and if prophecy is to be believed, he is more. Perhaps the first Antichrist foretold by Nostradamus. How strong is the connection between Napoleon and our second alleged Antichrist, Adolf Hitler? Is it possible that these connections will lead us to identify the third Antichrist? Nostradamus first mentions the second Antichrist in this chilling quatrain, which dooms Europe to another round of terror and destruction. And there is just such a man, from the exact location prophesied by Nostradamus, Adolf Hitler. Responsible for a death toll that reached into the tens of millions, Hitler is synonymous with evil more than any other single human being in history.
If people fully understood the true nature of Hitler, we'd be far more frightened of him even now than we were back then.
It is suggested that, like Napoleon before him, Hitler may have been aware of his own destiny as an Antichrist, as revealed in the quatrains of Nostradamus. They also believe Hitler perhaps saw Napoleon as his Antichrist predecessor. He revered Napoleon, and soon after the fall of France in 1940, visited the French dictator's tomb. The prophecies of Nostradamus suggest that a third false Messiah, a new Antichrist, may arrive in our lifetime. Some believe his predictions are foreshadowed by the book of Revelation. This biblical text purports that a so-called Savior will set the conditions for Armageddon. What clues are embedded in the quatrains of Nostradamus? Hints to help us identify the third and worst Antichrist. Today, believers see signs everywhere of global destruction. To them, this may confirm that the third Antichrist is among us. If we accept these theories as fact, who is he finally? And how far along is he in his timeline of destruction? Is the clock ticking? Is doomsday fast approaching? There are those who believe the Nostradamus effect is occurring as ancient prophecies and today's cataclysmic events.
If it were up to him, we don't have that choice.
Napoleon and Hitler were the first two. What might the third and most cunning Antichrist hold in store for us? Could the Antichrist be a real person and not a construct of religion and symbolism?
We are racing irreversibly toward the end of time, and through the prophecies that condemn the earth. It is prophecy, and prophecy will be fulfilled today.
So the question becomes, are any real leaders today actual candidates who meet the criteria identified in these prophecies? Critics point out that just about every world leader has been accused of fitting the profile of Antichrist at one time or another, according to who is or is not popular at any given time. It is fact that multiple crises worldwide have deepened. Nuclear weapons among world nations have increased tenfold. Economies around the world remain on the brink of collapse. The U.S. government prepares for another terrorist attack on American soil. More coincidence? For believers, these are not random events, but dire signs of the coming apocalypse. As the theory goes, the end fast approaches, the sands slip away, and the hands spin out of control. The third Antichrist wreaks havoc. Is this our future? Perhaps Nostradamus is warning us that people must pay attention